On this episode of Law Weekly, our focus is on the legality of the continued absence of President Muhammadu Buhari and the extent of the Senate's powers. We discuss these issues with a senior advocate of Nigeria, Clarke. We also have the reaction of some lawyers on the recall process of Senator Dina Melaye, plus a recap of the top trending stories from the courts. That's the lineup on this episode of Law Weekly. Hello and welcome. I am Shola Sheyeli. There's been comments in the media urging the Senate to do something about the president's continued absence. But what are the provisions of the law on this issue, and how much longer can the president be away? This was the first question I put to my guest, Mr. Clarke.
The Constitution is very clear as to the circumstances under which the president can either be on vacation or on a sick leave. Sections 143, 144, and 145 of the Constitution makes adequate provisions for that. Number one, we should not forget that during the Yar'Adua period, we had a situation where Yar'Adua had to travel overseas on medical grounds. But the difference then from what is happening today is very clear. Because Section 145 of the Constitution says that where a president intends to go on vacation or intends to go for a medical trip, he needs to make it known to the Senate President and also to the Speaker of the House that he intends so to do. The Constitution makes it clear that until he makes a contrary information or gives a to those two highly placed executives, the position is that there is no limitation period. So the Constitution allows the president to go as long as he feels he's strong enough to come back to start business. And nobody, because the Constitution does not make a problem, can query that absence. So unlike Yar'Adua's period, when he never sought the permission and his aides took him overseas, they could not use Section 145 on him, and they had to use what you call the doctrine of necessity, which, as far as I know, has no basis in Nigerian law. The doctrine of necessity is a common law doctrine because the Commonwealth of nations of which we were part of it, many of these countries had no constitution, written constitution like in England. So when a situation arises, like the Yar'Adua situation arose, they believed that they could fall back, whereas the Nigerian constitution is very clear. Sections 143 and 145 and 144 provided for the circumstances under Yar'Adua. But Buhari's position is governed by the provisions of Section 145.
So there's no time limit for which he can be away. But what happens in a situation if he can't communicate that he's coming back to assume his job?
Let me look at it this way. One might regard it as a lacuna. That whereas the Constitution says when he does that, until he reverses it himself, nobody can question his absence. But as you rightly mentioned, what about if a situation arises where his illness deteriorates to a position where he cannot? Well, there is that lacuna. And as also mentioned, there is no doctrine of necessity. So there is nothing, but at that stage, if a situation occurs, but I think now to make sure disabuse the minds of people who are thinking he has got into that situation, he must have asked that the acting president come along so that he can have a meeting. That will disabuse the minds of many people who feel it's either on the, what you call it, death machine or something. But as you rightly pointed out, there is no provision. But circumstances like what happened where the acting president had to go and see him will, disabuse the minds of people that it's so seriously taken.
Do you think that it's time for the Senate to intervene?
There is no provision of the law that allows the Senate again to. Section 145 is clear. once he informs them that he's going, until he himself, according to the Constitution, makes a contrary statement, the Senate have no power over him. They don't have.
We have a situation where the governor of Ekiti State, Ayo Fayose, has come out to say that he's in possession of some pictures that show that the president is incapable of performing his functions. But, you know, just for discussion's sake, what happens if such pictures make it into the public domain? Would it then be right for the Senate to intervene, or what do you think should happen?
You see, with the greatest respect to many of our rulers, if they had read the Constitution, I don't think that governor will be parading such statements when he knows that there's no basis in law to support that statement. But I believe, as I said, it's a lacuna, and you have raised a very vital point. When he's flying a flag, the presidency itself is now asking the acting president, come and see me and let us talk. And he has come back to confirm that I've seen your president, he's recovering. I'm not saying he's not well, but it's fast recovering.
Coming to the Senate, I want us to look at the extent of their powers. The acting president recently said that the confirmation of the Senate is not needed for the acting chairman to continue in that capacity. Is that the position of the law?
You see, the vice president or the acting president now is very, very correct. Let me give you an example. You see, Nigerian Constitution is so good. Section 5 of the Constitution vests all executive powers on the president. And the appointment of any executive post is solely the responsibility of the president. The Senate is only there to confirm if it's a substantive holder of the post that is being recommended. But if the president does not want to fill a vacancy substantively, he can keep anybody there on an acting capacity as long as he remains the president. So that's what the acting president is telling the whole world, that we have sent this man to you for confirmation. You have refused to confirm. Okay, that is your right. You are within your right. But also, we have our own right that if you reject